In this next example in section 10.1, we're going to continue on using our percent equation, but instead of just having simple one-sentence questions, we're going to look at more application type-based questions, and you're going to see a lot of these in this chapter. Chapter 10 is very heavily an application-based chapter, which means we're not just looking at formulas and numbers, we're looking at story problems, we're looking at situations. So for example 5, our percent equation, we're going to use that to find the following. Your score was 17 out of 20 on your last quiz. Express your score as a percent. Right, so this case, kind of similar to the last example that we just finished off. Right, we're looking for a percent. We don't know what that is. Right, our whole is the total number of points. So in the last couple of examples, we were talking about the whole being the number that came after the word of. Another thing that we often think about as whole is the total, or the original amount. Right? That means our part, right, is that 17 that we got as our score. Right? So this time I'm just going to go ahead and use our direct formula. So I'm going to use the formula percent equals part divided by whole. Right? And we could go back and use our original percent equation, or we can use this kind of little shortcut. It's entirely up to you. So our percent is 17 out of 20. 17 out of 20 gives us 0.85. And then we're going to shift our decimal point 2 places to the right to get 85%. Right, so if we're thinking about even in this class, your quiz scores, your test scores, your homework scores, right, this is how we're calculating things. We're going to take the number of points that were scored divided by our total. Right, so for B, there's 150 pieces of candy in a bag. Lisa got 16%, Rob got 34%, and Sam got the rest. How many pieces did each person get? All right, so to think about this, this one's a little more complicated, right? This is not going to be just as simple as the previous example where we did one division. So let's start by listing out what we know. All right, so for our percents, Lisa got 16%. So that's going to be 0.16. Rob got 34%. That's going to be 0.34. Right? So when we're thinking about percentages in our problem, remember we're shifting our decimal points in this case 2 places to the left. Right? Our whole is our total, which is 150, and we're looking for our part. But notice that we're not just looking for one part, we're looking for a bunch of parts. We're looking for how many pieces did each person get. Right? If we're thinking about our percent equation, our percent equation is part equals percent times whole. So what we're going to do is we're going to figure out what each person got. So let's start with Lisa. Right. Lisa got 16% times our whole, which is 150. Right. So part equals percent times whole. That's going to be 24 pieces. All right, Rob, well, he got 34%. So we're going to take 0.34 times 150. Again, as we're doing these calculations, I've worked ahead, so I'm not actually typing them into a calculator as I go, but you're definitely going to be doing so as you're working through these problems. You're going to want to make sure you have, even if it's just a basic calculator that can do division handy. Right? So 0.34 times 150 is 51 pieces. And now we need to figure out how much Sam got. Right, well, the only problem is we don't have a percentage, right? We weren't given a percentage for Sam. Right? But if we look at what we were given, right? Lisa got 16% and Rob got 34%. Right? So total between the two of them, if we add those 16% plus 34%, well, that's 50%, or 0.50. Right? And our total, our whole, is going to be 100%. So if between Lisa and Rob they split half for 50%, well then Sam is going to get the other 50%. So we're going to take 0.50 times 150, and Sam is going to get 75 pieces. Right? Now there are different ways of solving this one. We could say that after we knew how many pieces both Lisa and Rob got, well, we could add those together. 24 plus 51 gives us 75. If we take 75 away from 150, well, then we have the other 75 left that Sam gets. Right? So a lot of these problems in this section, there's not really necessarily one correct way of going out about to get the correct answer. You can kind of use multiple different types of problem solving skills to come up with that correct answer in the end. So again, you have a little bit of leeway with formulas, whatever you're comfortable with. Just make sure you're watching your decimals and your rounding and all that kind of good stuff as we're going through these. All right, so let's work through one more application one. Melissa wishes to buy a condominium home for $189,000. To obtain the mortgage loan, she must pay 20% of the selling price as a down payment. Determine the amount of Melissa's down payment. All right, so we're going to go back, use our basic percent formula here. All right, so our percent, 20%, 0.20. Right, our whole is the total cost of the house, $189,000. Right, and the part is that down payment amount that we are looking for. So we're going to use part equals percent times whole. We're getting into another section later on in this chapter where we're going to be talking a lot about mortgages and down payments and things like that. So this is definitely going to be something that's going to show up in further chapters as we go. All right, so our part, we're going to take this 0.20 times 189,000. And we're going to get, again, thinking about a dollar amount, the down payment, a 20% down payment would be $37,800. All right, so going through these three parts of example 5, again, this is definitely something that we're going to be using as we're going through this chapter. Right? The reason we're spending so much time talking about percents and our percent equation in this first section is because percents are going to show up in every single section as we continue to move through this first chapter, chapter 10.